Alison Moyet is back. Her new album is called The Minutes and it's become her biggest hit since the heady days of 1987. She looks great and she sounds even better. I met Alison to talk about returning to her electro roots, her new songs and her lifetime friendship with Depeche Mode. I started out by asking her how much has the music industry actually changed since she began in the early 80s.
The record industry is imploding, and there's a bit of a leeriness about supporting a middle-aged act, middle-aged female solo singer, in a day when we're awash with girl singers. And I've been offered loads of deals, but all to make cover albums, And I don't actually have a problem with singing other songs because other people's songs because I still see myself as an instrumentalist, and as such. Were I a cellist, I'd have no problem playing Bach. So as a vocalist, why shouldn't I be able to try my instrument on some great works? It's just that I'm also an artist, and in this instant, it was important that I did original material, and I couldn't get arrested.
I see you watching from the edge of the bed and thinking words that you never said when I was your girl.
That's Alison's 15-year-old daughter Caitlin in the video for her recent single When I Was Your Girl. But what's with that album title, The Minutes? Obviously it has a lot of significance for Alison.
You get to my age and you understand, brilliant times, they do happen, but they happen in these tiny moments that are hung in pedestrian years. Mostly our years are pedestrian, and we get these, these wonderful moments. And when you realise that, you just feel like you can let the rubbish go. And for me, in making this album, being able to sit down and do something creative with somebody I'm really into working with and who's really into working with me, and it purely being for a creative reward, they were some of my minutes.
I suppose people will say you reverted back to your electronic roots. Were you sitting back since the last album about 7 years ago with this thing and looking at the amount of electronica that had come back into the chart and go, oh, I used to do that 30 years ago?
No, I can honestly say to you that I am and always have been completely oblivious to chart music. I've never, even when I was in Yazoo, I was kind of working outside of it. I came up in a working class background. I didn't even have a record player or money to buy records when I was young. Music for me was always about participation and not about consuming. So it's irrelevant what other people do, but I've long wanted to work with electronica again for many, many years. I was slightly put off it in the 90s when the beat became all and the voices were tuned up and crammed in and sped up to the point where you just wish, just keep it off, keep it instrumental because you're doing my head in with this,
The Minutes is certainly an album of light and dark with songs full of drama and longing. In fact, it sounds like it might have been a bit of an emotional recording experience for Alison.
No, I wouldn't say it was an emotional recording process, and I think that's always been the case for me in terms. Actually, no, I don't know. No, I tend to go on the grim side. That's a fair comment. Love Reigns Supreme is the poppiest moment on the album, and is probably my least favourite moment on the album. But Guy absolutely loves it. I mean, lyrically, I really like it. I like it as a song. But the point is with this album is that we made it as a band would make it.
Lyrically, you've got some interesting stuff on it as well. At Right as Rain, for example, there's a killer line in which you say, if you can't find peace in my arms, find disease in my arms. Now, did you consult with Martin Gore for that line?
Oh no, I certainly didn't. That's a lyric I've had for a long time, funny enough, and it was kind of spurred in almost in the usual way of when you start writing a kind of almost a love ballad. If you can't be happy with me, and then I drew myself up short. It's like, oh, for heaven's sake, stop bleating. It's like, and I just like the idea of turning on its head and making it a rather ugly sentiment. That has always been my lyrical style. I mean, if you look at lyrics on Winter Kills, An Ode to Boy that I wrote around the same time they were doing Dreaming of Me. Do you mean they were, at that point, Depeche were a very upbeat boy pop band, and it was later when Martin got more involved, that it became darker, maybe about the third album on. So, not casting aspersions, but I'd already hit dark before then, and for plenty of reason I was a grim kid. Do you know what I mean?
Finally, Alison, like me, you're a child of the 80s. Do you miss the freaks in pop?
I do, more the point is I miss thinking that I know what I'm looking at. Well, what I would say is I look back at the 80s and you know, no one looked more rubbish than I did. No one, you know, there wasn't anyone, and you know, I'm quite sanguine about that, it's all right. The problem that I have now is that everybody is crushingly trendy. Everyone is crushingly beautiful and well dressed and well put together. And I find it so dull that you don't really, you know, that you're not allowed to see, you're not allowed to see the process of that artist developing. And so often there aren't any artists because we, you know, the music industry is run by, you know, these reality shows, and they don't need to find out what makes someone tick. They just have the next facsimile, the next template, the next year, you know, no artist development. And like I say, you have no sense of a character. At least I can hold my hand up and say all the mistakes that I made were my own, and I learned from them, and I learned as I went along.